So just a little bit about me, and Steve kind of said, my background and really foundations really came in reporting and writing, both doing internships for smaller newspapers, circulation size 1,000. Now, I'm working for a paper that has print circulation of somewhere around 250,000 and millions upon millions of page views per month. So my foundation's in writing and reporting, and from there I transitioned to photography and multimedia. And the reason that I say that is because I think, as all of you may know, the foundation for what I essentially do now, doing social media and things like that, is really a solid foundation in writing and communication. If I don't have the writing, if I don't have the other skills, I can't do my job as effectively as I do now. So we're talking a lot, certainly within the industry, about how important social media is, how important the job is, how there's so much demand. I would be willing to bet that a lot of you, when you leave this program, are probably going to be in some kind of job that is going to demand some kind of skill set that I'm going to talk about today. Most of you probably already know that. But remember, at the core, the fundamentals of journalism, writing, communication, asking fair questions, being fair, all that kind of stuff, being accurate, of course, is important. I just want to talk a little bit about that. I want this to be a discussion. I want this to be something where you don't feel afraid to raise your hand and ask me a question. I may tell you that I'll get to it later, but I want this to be a discussion, not just me talking at you and telling you things exclusively. But I'm going to talk a lot about, of course, social media and journalism, how you can use social media to generate tips, story leads, and make better reporting in journalism. First question, how many of you have a Twitter account? How many of you posted on that Twitter account today? Hands went down. Okay, how many of you have a Facebook account? I'm sure that's everybody. How many of you have already checked Facebook today? Most of you. Okay. Any Redditors in here? All right, that's good to know. Anybody on Foursquare? All right. Pinterest? Okay. I'm sure I'm assuming a lot of you have LinkedIn profiles and LinkedIn accounts. Okay. I like to do this because I like to get a temperature of the room to see where everybody is. So that gives me a better idea of where everybody else is. I'm going to start off by talking about the big elephant in the room, Facebook, and some of the things that we do at the Denver Post to use Facebook to not only generate leads and story ideas and find people, but everything else. So just a little bit. Facebook's the largest social network in the world, hands down. There's nobody who competes with them. They have more than 1 billion active users, so that's a lot of people. As you may well know, the tough thing that we have to deal with when it comes to Facebook is that it's kind of walled off into these little gardens, if you will. And so a lot of times when we need to find something or access or contact people, it's not quite as easy as it might be with something like Twitter. More than 1 billion pieces of content posted every day. As I talked about this, Facebook's internal searching, though, is where we really start to use it for a lot of things. Anytime we have somebody who's involved in a crime, I'll give you a great example. I don't have a screenshot here, but there was, actually I might have a screenshot. There was a guy in Denver about a month ago. Yeah, here it is. You can see what I'm doing here. There was a guy in Denver about a month ago who decided that he wanted to go into a Radio Shack with one of his pals and hold it up. He totally wanted to hold it up. Well, he robbed the Payday Loan store next door and then went to the Radio Shack and decided to hold up the Radio Shack because, Radio Shack apparently has lots of money, which is not the case. So here's what we did with this particular case. One of our online producers said, what the heck? This is the guy, this is one of the suspects who's inside. Let me try and friend him on Facebook. He's inside Radio Shack, holed up, cops have it surrounded, SWAT team's there, TV trucks are there, everybody's there, trying to find out. And Eric decides, and I just hadn't even thought of this. We had multiple people who were searching for it. Obviously, searching for the guy's name was going to be really difficult, but through a mixture of Twitter and some other tips, we were led to his Facebook page. Friended him. We're an hour into a 6-hour standoff, and lo and behold, the guy accepts Eric's friend request. So this guy has a Radio Shack clerk held at gunpoint, and he's on a phone accepting friend requests. And so this presents a lot of really interesting ethical questions beyond just, wow, suddenly we have this access to friends, we have access to potential girlfriends, family members, like we have access to everything, because without that access we have absolutely nothing at all. And you can see this screenshot. What I did was right away I went in and started just screenshotting. About as far back as I could go before the thing just said the file's too big, stop screenshotting this. But this is really, really valuable. I read through everything. And we were able to, with this, develop a really strong profile of like, okay, well, clearly something happened in March 2011 where one of his good friends was shot and killed by police, so he doesn't have really a good perception maybe of what police are. This might be leading this. What are some of the ethical questions that come in this? Okay, he's got a guy, theoretically, held at gunpoint, right? We don't know, but this is what we assume so far. He suddenly decided to accept a friend request. This is not the time to go and ask this guy for an interview, like, at all. Don't ask him for an interview. Why is that? Because suddenly you become part of the story if you're trying to ask this guy for an interview. Like, step back and just watch what happens. Because the last thing you want is to say something to him, to say something inside, you know, and he reads and it sets him off and he ends up shooting a guy and killing him. Like, that is the last thing you want to do. But he wasn't just accepting our friend requests, he was accepting other friend requests as well. But again, this was just a treasure trove of pictures. I don't actually have it on here, but he also decided about 2 hours into the thing to post a picture of him, and I don't know if I have it, inside, a picture of him inside the Radio Shack itself with like his accomplice. And we figured out based on how the photo was looking that he didn't just hold a phone out and just click it like he made the guy who they were holding up. Like, I mean, this was just an unbelievable story. But hey, this goes to show you that sometimes even the most unlikely of people are going to accept your friend requests and do this. Now, the reason that I screenshotted this and did so quickly, we learned this, and we've always learned this. The Aurora Theater shooting case was a great example. We'd find something out, we'd report it, and then CU Denver would lock a page down, put it behind a password, take pictures off, like everything. So every time you're doing something like this, make sure you screenshot stuff every single time. For those of you who are Mac users, Command-Shift-3 will take a picture of whatever it is that your desktop is doing. In fact, I think I'll just do it now.
Snag it.
See that?
You snag it.
So, I mean, that's another, like the thing that I used to get the screenshot here of the whole thing, I just used a Chrome extension. I can't even remember what it was, but there are a bunch of Chrome extensions or Firefox add-ons where you can copy an entire page. So I just scrolled down through his Facebook profile and I just said, okay, like take snapshots of this all the way down. Hopefully it was going to lead to other things. We ended up reaching out to some friends. There were already some people there, but this was an incredibly valuable tool. And Eric, you know, honestly, like I can't take credit for deciding to friend him. I mean, the last thing that I would think to do would be to friend the guy who's in the middle of holding up a Radio Shack store. But Eric, bless his heart, decided that he was going to do that, and this guy decided he was going to accept the friend request. So, really valuable information. You can never go too far when you're trying to find stuff, but when you finally do get into something like this, again, use your ethical judgment. Don't jump in and just start asking this person questions. Like, you need to step back and be an observer, I think, above all else, especially because it's such a volatile situation.
Did you publish any of the photos from this page?
We didn't, and I will talk about image rights and like image use in just a second. We did describe the pictures. We couldn't link to them because, you know, anybody else was not going to see it except for us and all of his friends. But we did, the picture that I did describe, and then like inside the back of the Radio Shack store, we did describe that in detail. So, but again, like I think it was like 24 hours later, this page was shut down. Like this page doesn't exist anymore. It's just, it's nowhere. As soon as as soon as public defenders got a hold of it, and that's what we expected, they took it down because, I mean, this guy left just a trail of evidence and, I mean everything. So, Facebook can be really valuable. Internal searching, those of you know, if I just go here and I do and I just, so this is the name of, this is the name of the little girl whose body was just found last week in open space in Arvada. Facebook is really good at social media. They're not so good at search. Google is really good at search. That's like what they do. That said, it can still be valuable. If you run a search for whatever news item that you're looking for, let's say it's Jessica Ridgway, and then click public posts down here, this is a great way to see what people are publicly saying about, in this case, Jessica Ridgway. Sometimes it can be really slow. But people all have the option now to share things with public. This little globe down here, let me just zoom it in so you can see a little better. This globe down here tells you that, shared publicly. Okay, this is like a picture I've never seen of her, actually. So this is where this is valuable. I've seen lots of pictures of this girl already, but this is one that I haven't seen yet. Maybe it tells me something else about her that I didn't know. Lots of stuff still people looking and trying to share information and pictures. Certainly the big unanswered question in this case right now is, who did this? Who did this and why did they do it? We don't know that yet, but checking once a day, twice a day to just see what people are saying about this, you never know. I mean, somebody might forget that their status update is public. I see it all the time. And they post something out there and suddenly you maybe have a story tip or a story lead. A lot of stuff, I mean, honestly, a lot of sifting through social media is sifting through the junk and finding the good stuff. It's like going on a gold mining or something. It's just, you're going to see, I mean, how many times have we seen this picture already? The other way that you can do this, because Facebook can sometimes be clunky, is using Bing.com/social. This both captures Facebook and Twitter. Google for a long time was actually indexing tweets and showing things in real time. It was an incredibly valuable resource. Unfortunately, like a lot of things in Silicon Valley, they're all fighting and arguing with one another, and that deal fell apart, and so it's not there anymore. It was a really great tool. Bing.com/social is a good place that you can go instead, though. OpenStatusSearch.com, the other one, will also search public Facebook posts. Kind of in a cleaner interface, and in a lot of ways, I think, faster interface. It's in real time, so as soon as things are published, they're out there. Again, use that kind of thing. This is, I'll just flip back to this. This is Bing Social Search. It's actually right at the top right there. This is the things that are trending topics right now. Just, I think, broadly speaking. Public updates you can search. Twitter, let's say I want to look for, I'll just search Jessica Ridgway again. Okay. You can see how recent this is. A minute ago, 7 minutes ago, 11 minutes ago. You can see we posted something 22 minutes ago. So it's not only finding names, but it's looking at the hashtag, and even though this is like one word, it's also finding it as well. So again, this is a great way to go back. I don't know, I'm not sure how far back you can go with this. The tough thing with Twitter, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, is that you're basically limited to searching about 7 days worth of tweets, which means that without archiving specific links, it's going to be much, much harder to find them. Google actually does a decent job of indexing old tweets, but again, you have to know what you're looking for. So like if I wanted to go back and dig up all of the stuff that we put out during the Aurora Theater shooting, I could find that, but this is sort of a snapshot of what people are saying right now. Okay? Again, you can switch that over to Facebook. Search by most recent or best match. Really valuable tool. Okay, So that's Facebook. Are there any questions about Facebook and using Facebook to research? How many of you use Facebook to research stories or do other things like that? A couple of you? All right. Really valuable tool. It's the biggest one out there, so you can't just overlook it. How many of you have heard of Geopedia? A couple of you, good. All right. This is really cool. This just came on the market, I don't know, like 6 or 8 months ago. And we were approached by them to see if they wanted us to use their service. As a professional media company, we have to pay for the service. You can always sign up for a free trial, but this is what it does. It allows you to search photos and video posted to social media websites like Instagram, Flickr, YouTube, Picasa, Twitter. But here's the thing. It's all plotted on a map. So instead of you just trying to find things based on keyword, suddenly you're using the geodata, the metadata that's appended with each one of these images. And it can be like a little creepy because you think like most of these people are sharing these pictures and they probably have no idea how easy it is to just piece all these things together. But it's all right there. You can sort by date range, you can filter based on content type, possibly uses searching for photos around a breaking news situation. That's probably the most obvious. All right, during the theater shooting, I'll tell you how that all happened, but how we first found out about that. But that was a situation where obviously we were late to get to the situation after it happened. I think we had our first people on the ground probably 30 minutes or so after it happened. Keep in mind this happened around 12:45 in the morning. Most people from the newsroom are gone. Most of the TV stations are pretty much wrapping up by then. So it happened right in a time period where generally like professional news organizations at least are sort of in a lull. Like you don't necessarily expect something big to happen. So this is where it became incredibly valuable. Okay, I've got a bunch of people in a movie theater. They likely all have one of these that they're carrying around with them, and they're probably taking pictures. You've probably all seen the YouTube video that was played ad nauseum on CNN and other cable news networks as an example. But this is also not only a place where you can find pictures, but because you can find pictures, you can find possible witnesses to those stories as well. All right, so if somebody's tweeting a picture from this location, now I can potentially reach out to them and see if they have any information. As I said, it's not free. You might be able to talk to Steve about this, but you might be able to set something up where, because you're all students, you don't have to pay. As it is, like we're still on like a lengthy trial, and to date, like I think we're still kind of working through that, but eventually we have to pay. But let me just show you what that looks like. So, all right, so I just ran a search for University of Colorado Boulder, okay? And I can look at this in two kind of views right now. I can look at this as a collage. So this looks a lot like Pinterest, or a lot like New MySpace, if you've seen that. And you can just see, these are all things that were posted within, I don't know, it's a couple mile radius of the University of Colorado Boulder. All right here. There's stuff posted 30 minutes ago at 10:53 a.m. There's somebody's shattered phone. Again, a lot of this stuff you're kind of searching through and finding the right things, but if I go back to map, and I want to zoom in, I can see that somebody posted an Instagram picture right there, right? And let's say this is a breaking news situation. I can reach out. I can find this person on Instagram, put them out. The other great thing about this, I can tweet these pictures. I can add these to Storify. How many of you have heard of Storify before? A couple of you. Check it out, storify.com. It's a great tool for legally pulling in all of these images and publishing them, legal right now at least, but legally pulling in images and publishing them, just like it sounds, into a story, okay? Obviously, they're plotting tweets on here as well. Thank you. Again, a lot of this stuff you're just sifting through, just a lot of things. But you can see this is all recent stuff that has all been tweeted just in and around here. This is really cool. Settings, if you go here, you can tell it what you don't want to include. So I don't want Twitter. I don't want Picasa, I don't want YouTube, I just want Instagram photos, for instance. All right, so it's looking for that. So now it's only pulling the Instagram pictures. Date filters, of course, I can exclude items and set a date range, so I'm not sure how far back you can really safely go with this. Like different APIs are different for different services, but you can, if I just want to find out, okay, what were people doing on Sunday, I could just exclude that and find stuff.
Hey, Dan?
Yeah.
How dense was this with the theater shooting around this? How much activity did you see that night?
I'm going to talk about this later. I actually wasn't the guy specifically in charge of Geophedia. I'm going to talk about, so I don't technically know. It wasn't, I think, as much of a, as much as we thought it was going to be. I think we thought there was going to be a lot more, but I can't, like this is decently dense right now. But I wasn't actually the guy who was specifically in charge of watching Geophedia. And I'll talk about that, like how to cover a mass casualty situation like that when you have lots of sources of information. The way that people covered Columbine in 1999, obviously significantly different than what we had before. But I just remember them saying, like, we pulled stuff and we put it in Storify. I don't think it was quite as dense as we wanted it to be, but we did find stuff that was valuable. And ultimately it led us to witnesses that we were able to talk to. I think that's really where the value came in.
Hey, Dan?
Yep.
Just for funds, can you go up to the top left photo there?
This one?
No, never mind. I posted something just a few minutes ago. It's not up there yet.
I ran this search like
Oh,
a couple minutes ago, but if I refresh this, it should find
No,
it.
it's the same. It's all right.
I'm not sure how quickly.
Could be an API that pulls
Yeah.
every 30 minutes or something.
Yeah, a lot of these services, they have API limits. So data content filters, you can do other things, building custom filters, excluding tweets that begin with @ so if I don't want to have a conversation between people, I can exclude that. Exclude tweets with John posting hashtags, exclude tweets with less than 50 characters. And you can just add a whole bunch of filters. Essentially what this is if you want to really find something really specific related to a situation, this tool is going to help you get there. You can save specific searches, and again, I mean, we could really find anything that we want. So the other thing here, I'm searching by circle right now, but I can also search just the visible area. So that's going to look at all the Instagram photos just in my field of vision. I can search by polygons. So let's say I only want to start right here. I can also do a custom view just based on that. So there's lots of different things you can do. Okay. Any questions about that?
So you can just use the photos in your news story?
Not totally. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Just as an aside, the internet doesn't have a lot of, I say the internet, the web, people on the web generally don't have a lot of respect for image and image copyright, and it's a really complicated thing. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but the last thing you want to do is take one of these pictures, use it in the improper context, and be slapped with a lawsuit. Obviously, like, you know, a big media company like us, like, we have a lot more to worry about because people naturally want to come after us with stuff like this. Maybe less so for you, but you want to play by the rules, and I'll talk about how you can do that with this stuff. I'll talk about how you can do that. So that's Geophedia. All right. Okay, Instagram. If you can't use Geophedia, if your trials run out or something else like that, how many of you are on Instagram? Good. Instagram obviously doesn't have a website. It's a mobile app only, so that is a little clunkier to work with. I think in a lot of ways, especially if you're anchored to a desk and you're trying to do something. But Instagram search feature at the top of the app is really something great for finding specific hashtags for breaking news events. You can search those hashtags, and hopefully the people are tagging the content. I know that during the Empire State Building shooting, this was like a month or two ago in New York City, and a lot of the news organizations there found there was a very bloody photo that the New York Times published on its front page. I don't have it here, but they found that picture on Instagram. It was a picture, so guy comes out, if you don't know the story, shoots a former work colleague dead at like 9 o'clock in the morning on like a Tuesday or something, like the middle of rush hour in New York City. And eventually police come and shoot him dead, in addition to shooting a bunch of other people by mistake. So guns and violence everywhere. But the picture that the New York Times got a hold of was somebody who went to the top of the building or like one of the floors and like leaned out and like took a picture looking directly down. And there's this body just splayed there with like blood just coming totally out. I mean, it was a really gripping picture. Clearly had news value. Lots of discussion ensued about whether it's right to use that photo. I know that in the New York Times case, they found the person, they found the photo, they looked for the hashtag, and then they contacted the user, secured rights for the photo, and then published it. But they were using Instagram to find that, and I think it was an Instagram picture without any filter on it. And that's like a whole nother ethical discussion. If you are gonna use Instagram pictures, it's really important for you to explain to people that this is an altered image, okay? That it didn't just come out of the, like, this is not how it looks. Of course, you can post Instagram pictures that don't have filters on them, but Instagram filters, I mean, the whole, kind of the general point of it is that you take this picture and you apply some filter to it to make it look cooler. And so if you are going to do that, you have to tell people that in the caption. Like, this is not, like, this is a re-editing of reality. This is not exactly how it appeared. Like, there are filters, there are other things on this that are making this appear different than what my own eye saw it. And that's just a general thing for photography in general. If you're doing something to a picture that your eye can't see, or that the camera didn't see initially, like, you got to tell the people that, you know, in the interest, at least in my field, in journalism and transparency, like, I've got to tell people that this is not how the image originally worked. You can also search for specific users if, if you know somebody's Twitter account, for example. In the case of that guy who held up the Radio Shack clerk, we had his Twitter account, and a lot of people signed up with Instagram with a Twitter account. We went to his Instagram feed and found more pictures there. Not stuff that he was posting during the event, but again, valuable information. So sometimes you find somebody's Twitter account, you can check that in against Instagram. Use rights, so now we're at the point where I'm going to talk about rights. You don't have a right to take someone else's photo from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram to use online, newscast, or print. You can't do it. It's just not allowed in, I mean, people do it all the time, but technically it's not allowed. The photo, in the case of Facebook and Twitter, the photo has to be presented in the context of being on the social network. So a lot of times if you have like a Facebook profile picture, and it's the only thing you have of a person, and you can't contact the family, so you can't find somebody. If you take a screenshot of something sort of like this, I don't know what the rules with Instagram are. Like I said, Instagram is a lot more complicated, and it's now owned by Facebook. But at least on Facebook, I've been told by people in Facebook that if you take a screenshot of the profile itself and use that as an image, and the picture, the profile picture of the person happens to be on that screenshot, you're technically okay. You're technically okay. It's the same thing with Twitter. Twitter actually has an embed feature, though. For those of you who don't know where that is, I'll show that a little bit later. As I said before, the other reason you want to take these screenshots of pictures is that you never know if they're going to be deleted. If law enforcement contacts YouTube or contacts Facebook and says you need to take these images down, like a judge like orders an image to be taken down for one reason or another, like you're going to be in real trouble if that image just goes away. So always screenshot stuff, even if you don't plan on publishing it. If it has news value and you have to go back to it, you want to make sure you at least have a local copy of the picture. Of course, do the best you can to contact the photographer for permission to use the image. A lot of times they're just going to tell you that, sure, go ahead, take it. I just want credit, and that's great. If we have really if we have photos that have a lot of news value to them, we're going to go out and we're going to pay people for the right to use those pictures. And we'll work out an agreement. We'll send a release and say, okay, we have, rights to use this in. You have to negotiate separate rights. Like I have rights to use this in print, online, on mobile devices, on social media. If I post something to Facebook that's a freelancer's photo, like I have to secure the rights to be able to do that. Like just because someone's giving me the picture doesn't mean I have rights to use it in every medium and format. If I want to use it on a broadcast or a newscast, different set of rights. As I said that. It's even better though to use Storify. Have language ready to ask people for permission and use them. We have that all prepped up. For those of you who don't know what Storify is, this is Storify. And this is where you can use pictures however shaky as it is, this is where you can actually technically use pictures and publish them back on your website. So, so this is ABC News's Storify of the guy who decided to jump 24 miles above the earth. I don't know, how many of you people watched that yesterday? I'm curious, how many of you watched it on traditional television? How many of you watched it on YouTube? A lot more people. So this is a recreation, kind of breaking down like the entire, view selection of social media action is Austria, Joe, don't feel one part or left on the edge of space. So you can see that they're pulling in tweets right here, and right within here I can favorite it, I can retweet, I can reply. So this is just reaction of what people are saying. See what they're doing right here? They're pulling in this picture from what looks like Bleacher Report because it's watermarked right in the corner. In all honesty, I don't know, it looks grainy enough that it looks like it's a screen capture, so they're pulling it from a broadcast so the quality isn't as good. But this is how, copyright law and fair use aside, like this is how you can technically pull in images and be just fine with them. So in this case, they found a link to Carl Castillo, who has posted this picture probably on Twitter, and they just pulled it right in. And now I can take this, I can go in, I want to go right up at the top. I think this is it. I just click embed, and there's my script right there to embed this whole thing on my website. So if you have a WordPress blog or something like that, you just stick it right in the content of the post, and this thing will lay itself out just like this. So there are lots of different ways that you can use this. This is a lot of pulling tweets. This is not a specifically a really extensive one. I'll pull up one that is a lot more in depth. So this is one that I did. We now use a totally different tool to live blog things, but in a pinch, this could really almost work as a live blog as well. It's not as maybe as great as some other tools out there, but I think it works really well. Precisely again because you can pull in pictures. Like in this case, like I don't technically have to secure a release from her because I'm just pulling the picture in the context of Twitter. It's linking to the tweet. It's linking to her handle. Like you can all tweet within here. This is what I'm doing. I'm writing a narrative and just topping it at the top every single time and then pulling something. Yes, Bill?
Could you explain, maybe it's a legal thing and it's hard to explain, but why is it that it's okay to use this stuff on Storify? What if the people that you've curated and using photos that they have on their Twitter feed were not copyright free?
I think as soon as they upload the image to Twitter, as soon as they upload the image to Instagram, like that's when
they own the problem.
it's Twitter's. Twitter has Twitter has a limited license. They're not taking, most of these services don't technically take your copyright. So like TwitPic is an example, like there was a huge debate about this like a year ago, because TwitPic, if you upload stuff to them, like they actually take copyright and they say, we can turn around, we can sell this image for profit, we can do anything we want with this image. The last thing you ever want to do as a photographer is give up copyright. Never, ever, ever give up your copyright, ever. And I'm stepping into my photography shoes for a second here. There are a lot of people now, because of the abundance of photography and images throughout the world, who, and every one of us, I mean, this is like an 8-megapixel camera on here. I mean, it's great in a pinch. I can get a lot of really great pictures with this thing. It's not as great as a professional camera, of course, but the best camera you have is the one that you have with you. So in a lot of cases, this is what's going to be working for you the best. What Twitter says and what Facebook says is that when you upload images to them, you've granted them a limited license to essentially distribute that photo within the context of the network. So all we're doing here is we're distributing that photo again within the context of the network. Again, this is really, really gray area stuff. For better or worse, I think for worse, the courts have not, the appellate courts, district courts, Supreme Court, and Congress has not wanted to touch fair use. And fair use and copyright law is really, really outdated. It hasn't, Congress can't seem to achieve anything or do anything right now, and this is, you know, pretty low, I'm sure, on its list of priorities. But copyright law has not kept up with what the digital transformation has really done. I mean, the fact that, I mean, even what I told you before, like, the fact that I can just make a copy of a picture by taking a screenshot like that, I mean, that was something that when this law was written, however many years ago, it just wasn't accounted for at all. The fact, I mean, if you wanted to steal copyright, you'd have to get film, you'd have to like take something, scan a negative, like do all this work to reproduce a picture. So it was a lot easier to police. And now with pixels and everything, it's you know, like I said, as easy as Shift Command 3, and you've created another copy of that picture. Storify has assured us, and Twitter and other people have assured us, that if you pull stuff in, again, in the context of a network like this, you're okay. I think it's really, like I said, gray area, but they've assured us that it's all the case. Again, like Twitter's not taking your copyright, Facebook's not taking your copyright, you retain the rights to those images to sell and distribute however you want. You're just granting them a limited license to distribute that. Now sometimes, you know, we have really viral pictures that end up on Twitter, and there's just nothing that we can do about it. Great example, I don't have the picture here, but Craig Walker, who two-time Pulitzer Prize winning photographer with the Denver Post, took a picture during the Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Denver protests last year, I guess is what it was, last September. And it was a picture of a Denver police officer pointing a gun. Some of you may have seen the image, pointing a gun like right at people, and he has like a face shield on, and it's like total chaos in the background. That picture got copied and uploaded to Twitter, and I mean, just went viral. I think on TwitPic alone, it had more than 100,000 page views. I mean, just people who viewed the picture. And we can kick and scream and cry and whine all we want about how this isn't fair, but I mean, you know, at some point, like, you know, I file like copyright, like, you know, things, and I say take it down. But it's like playing whack-a-mole. Like something else is going to pop up soon enough. And you know, the tough thing with something like that is if somebody takes the image and uploads it to Twitter, like, you know, hopefully they're giving you at least credit to say where it's coming from, at the very least. But it was a really arresting image. In fact, if I did like a Google image search, I probably could even find it. Yeah, this is the picture right here. This is actually, and obviously when like the New York Times takes stuff,
You're okay with that?
well, no, I mean they're gonna, you know, they're gonna be contacting our director of photography and everything like that.
Well, isn't that through the AP anyway? Your stuff gets sent to the AP?
Yeah,
They subscribe to the
I
AP.
think we actually moved this picture on the wire. So we take pictures, and if we want to give them to newspapers who subscribe to the Associated, or newspapers, broadcast companies, other people who subscribe to the AP, you know, we're supposed to move a certain percentage of photos on the wire for use. This, I believe, is one of them. But, you know, we have all kinds of restrictions that we put on it, like, you know, internet out, like mandatory credit, like right there, TV out, so television can't use the picture, all kinds of requirements that we attach. But again, it's kind of an anachronistic thing. You're trying to control the use of images in an era when digital photography has just made the number of images and how easily it is to make those images, copy them and make them available. It's just, again, you're trying to contain something that is really, you know, once you get a photo like this, you know, it's really sort of out of your control. There's really only so much you can do. And what are you going to do, like slap a lawsuit against somebody who, you know, is blogging from their basement? Like, that's not going to do you anything. Now, if somebody like Matt Drudge decides he wants to go use this picture, like that's like a totally different story. Like Matt Drudge should know the difference between what's right and what's not right when it comes to copyright law. But that was the picture. It went totally viral. There was nothing we could do about it. You can try to file all the copyright, you know, takedown requests you want. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act. That is what allows us to go and do this.
Okay, Dan, well, I mean, would you consider on something like this, or maybe all your photos, putting a watermark there so that if it, basically your brain's always going to be there?
That's a question that I know that they've discussed, the photo editors have discussed many times, and I think the overriding concern with that is that it somehow messes with the picture. So it's, again, you've got to make a decision here. And even then, like if I were to put a watermark like right in the corner right here, you know, somebody if they really wanted to could just crop it, you know, right here. Now, if you go to like something like a Getty Images search or an AP Images search, They watermark all the stuff that they have on there, but the idea is that, you know, that's just a low-res thumbnail that you can look at to eventually hopefully purchase. And Getty and AP make an incredible amount of money. In fact, like I was at that photography workshop, I was listening to Tom Curley, the former chief of AP, and Santiago Leon, who's the director of photography at AP, saying that it's a growing revenue stream for them. Like they're selling a lot more. You know, some good news in the traditional media space that the AP and that other media companies are making a lot of money by selling their images. I know that we're definitely in that case. We sell pictures when we can, and it's certainly a growing revenue stream for us as well. But I think the reason for us not using a watermark is that it, you know, kind of takes away from the original photograph. Though I agree that, you know, if it was actually out there, you could at least do that. But that's kind of a discussion that's like outside of what I know we can do. So again, kind of just going back to Storify, you can see that I'm writing text in here in addition to like linking to off to our other stories, pulling in tweets. If I go far down enough, and this is one thing I'll talk about, I'm even pulling in stuff from other news organizations, people who aren't even affiliated with the Denver Post, but who I believe are reputable you know, distributors of information. And I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't have a problem with that because there's Colorado Public Radio right there. I don't have a problem with that because my goal is, and your goal always should be, especially in this internet age, is to give people the best information they can possibly get. They already know that you are not the person who's going to give them everything that they can possibly get, you know, from a single place. Like, so be that source. Be the source that, be the editor of all that information. Pull it all in, sift through it. As as we were just looking at the Geopedia photos, there's a lot of junk in there that you don't need. The value in the digital age, especially when it comes to social media editors and social media, is being able to, I sort of hate the word, but the word curate or aggregate, edit through that stuff and find the good stuff and put it out and publish it like this. That's where the value really comes in. I talked about there's so much imagery out there, there's so many tweets, there's so many Facebook posts, like everything. Like you can bring value back to the public if you're editing that stuff and putting the best stuff out there. So mixture of tweets, press releases. I mean, and this was including stuff like, you know, for you know, a full list of the addresses of damaged homes. Like this is not something that we're necessarily going to publish in full in a story. So by all means, I'll just put all this stuff right in here, okay? And you get powerful pictures like this. This is a guy at Channel 7, 9 News. I mean, it didn't matter. And this thing got like tens of thousands of page views. Not only because of the value in pulling all this stuff in, but also because we were effective at using search engine optimization, publishing it consistently on Twitter, updating it consistently. I mean, if you read through the comments at the bottom, numerous people saying this is like my place where I'm finding all the information I need to about this. Okay? And you can see I'm just time-stamping stuff up here and just writing through and linking. And I think we kept this up for like 5 or 6 days maybe. And you can make this, honestly, as long as you want. And the great thing is, like, you update, you publish, and it updates automatically. So you don't have to re-embed something every single time. You just republish it, and it'll put the new information right in. Okay? So that's Storify. I can't tell you how valuable that tool is. A lot of digital-first media people, and I'm sure when some of you talk to Steve Buttrey in a couple days, like, they'll tell you the same thing. A lot of the stuff that they send out to us, if it's national level content, is done through Storify for a lot of these same reasons. Okay. Reddit. I don't think a single person raised their hand. Gil, maybe you raised your hand and you said you've been on Reddit before.
Yeah, I've been on Reddit before. I don't pay too much attention to it. I talk about it.
So Reddit has largely become what Dig used to be, the internet's front page, or the web's front page. So just to show you what Reddit looks like, this is Reddit. I'm sure most of you have actually heard of it. But the basic idea is that people submit links or they post something, and the community, the Redditors, upvote or downvote that content based on how much they like it, how valuable they think it is. So, and I'll talk about this a little later. On Friday, we had a story about someone who decided to shoot a bullet through an Obama campaign field office in Denver. And I ended up running out and taking a picture because everybody else was up at the Jessica Ridgway thing. But when I got back and the photos were published, we had made the front page of Reddit. Like somebody had submitted the link, not one of us, and this is really where the organic stuff comes in. Submitted a link and it had like uploaded to the front page of, it had been uploaded all the way to the front page here. And half of all traffic to that story was coming from Reddit. So this is a really powerful thing, not only for getting work out there if you can, but, and this changes every couple hours or so. In a lot of cases, they're linking to traditional media outlets, blogs. I mean, it's just everything. Like I said, this changes, so obviously we're not up here anymore. Here you get interesting stuff like this. It's all the way at the top. Where does this potentially come in when it comes to journalism? Well, they had, and I talked about this already. Also worth noting, there are numerous subreddits. So there's a subreddit for Boulder. There's a subreddit for Denver. And typically the URL is just something like /r/Denver. And so this is the Reddit Denver subreddit. So a lot of times you'll find stuff, I can see one right up here. This is a link from denverpost.com. I can click and people can comment on it right here. And the community itself is honest. They're also, it's a decently well-educated group. They're technologically savvy, they're younger. They are of the internet, I think, in a lot of ways. They grew up in this age. It's a really, really savvy community. This is just one example here, and if you click on this, this will actually take you to the story. But you can see, and I don't know if I'm signed in right now. But what Reddit does to control against people who come in and just promote their own content, like I can't just go in and promote Denver Post content and expect to like gain any kind of reputation within the community. My value really comes in not only promoting my own stuff, but also promoting other stuff that I think might be valuable. So they have controls against that, and if they find people, and there's a famous case a couple months ago where the former social media editor for The Atlantic, who was using a pseudonym, was totally found out and had been like submitting like dozens and dozens of links. And like The Atlantic, like at least online, like great model for just digital and print balance and transforming. They were essentially banned from Reddit for like, I think, a month or two because they were trying to game the system so much. So when this community gets angry, like it comes down really hard. So it's a really, I think a lot of social media editors really scratch their heads when it comes to Reddit because it's not just as simple as blasting a link out on Twitter and Facebook and having people share it and then getting tons and tons of traffic from it and tons of exposure. Like, this is much more complicated, but when it works really, really well. So they sort of had their journalism moment when the Aurora Theater shooting happened. So these are just a couple examples of the threads. Comprehensive Timelines, Part 2, Aurora Massacre. Someone came to our theater, there's another thread. Someone came to our theater, midnight release of Dark Knight Rises and began opening fire. Who here on Reddit can help me calm my nerves? I'm one of the 50 wounded in the Aurora Theater shooting. Holy crap, like suddenly we've got like people who are like stepping out of the shadows and telling us like, I was there, this is what I'm saying. By all means, feel free to, you can quote from this, but hedge it against, the fact that you're quoting something that you don't technically necessarily know. And we'll talk about like how you can verify things a little bit later, but this is at least a starting point for finding things. So let me just show you how how detailed this got. Remember, this is all crowdsourced. This is all pulled in from various sources. These people are obviously not being paid. And this is what they came up with after several hours of just following this. This obviously hasn't been updated, but as of 2 months ago. But they've confirmed victims and ages of those victims. They've linked to specific pages, social media profiles of them. they've posted numbers as well. This is a link to an IRC chat, real-time Google coverage. Now they've got a timeline down here, and /u/some, this is a specific user, okay? So they're pulling in specific timelines and links to stuff. You can see they started pulling this together at 4:55 a.m. local time. So this is part 2, by the way. Part 1, like obviously starts a lot earlier, but they're continuing to do stuff, and they're just posting stuff here as they go through. I mean, everything. Pictures, news updates, live streams, and then all the comments underneath that as well, sorted by the top 200. So, you know, this is sorted right now by best, by what the community thinks is the most valuable comments. So that stuff's floating to the top. So, I mean, this was an incredibly valuable resource for just watching what they were digging up. Because, again, the power of, you know, 100 people in a Denver Post newsroom is one thing. Power of thousands of people in a Reddit community, like, totally different scale. I mean, their ability to find things as an aggregate community is always going to be more powerful than the 100 people or 200 people in the Denver Post. Even if you threw everybody that we had in the entire newsroom, which is roughly 200 full and part-time people, like, there's no way we could match the speed and scale of this. So we have to work with them and we have to use it. But I was incredibly impressed with what they were able to find and what they were able to dig up. And again, like, they don't care where it's coming from, they just want to find information. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be confirmed. They're putting it out there and saying, okay, community, confirm this for me. Is there some way? And, you know, sometimes things get knocked down and they say, no, this is not true. But if you ever want to, like, take some time to read through this. This is a really great example of just how powerful Reddit really became. So great. I watch the subreddit for Denver really closely just to see what they're talking about. Often I'm watching more than I'm posting. So that's what I use it for. Are there any questions?
So if you make a screenshot of those comments, do you have to credit? Like, say...
I'd say, like, you know, from Reddit, you know, if you wanted to use that, if you were writing a story, and I think we actually did write a story or two about how Reddit was used during this specific story, and I think we took screenshots and just credited Reddit.
What would you credit if that picture goes into a video? Like, you just say from Reddit.
If there was a picture that was posted on Reddit?
If, like, I make a screenshot and I edit the screenshot into a video, how would
I would just say Reddit. I mean,
do I say
that's
at
like
the end, or do I say just on the...
a lot of times people just put a little credit in the lower right-hand corner that just says image via Reddit or something like that. One thing just related to that, just because you have a video from YouTube doesn't mean you credit YouTube. YouTube is just a platform by which something can be distributed. Like, the person you credit on YouTube is the person who actually, or the user who actually created the video, not, or whoever the author of the video is. Like, I see news organizations do this all the time. This photo via Facebook, like, well, Facebook's not technically the author of the image taker. Facebook's just the thing that was used to distribute the photo. That's all it is. So with something like a screenshot, like, that's totally different because you're taking something that, you know, is not an image that any specific person took. It's just a screenshot of Reddit itself. So just a fine difference there between an actual picture and something like that, a screenshot. Yes?
So between, like, Reddit, Storify, Geofedia, what would you say is the newest upcoming social media platform? Like, out of those three, what would you recommend, like, starting to get into?
I mean, Storify is just sort of standard now across the industry, and like 8 months ago, a year ago, I don't think that was the case. Reddit has certainly gained a lot of credibility. The Aurora Theater shooting massacre was really where, like, and I mean, that's like snowballed to other things, like Barack Obama doing an Ask Me Anything on Reddit was a really big deal. It like brought down Reddit's service. So Ask Me Anything, for those of you who don't know, Reddit has one of their thread features is you can be somebody and you can just say to people, you know, I am Barack Obama, President of the United States, ask me anything. And Barack Obama's sitting there, like, you know, responding to all the questions. You know, it's like a question and answer format. I've seen other ones that I want to read, like I am Anthony DeRosa, social media editor at Reuters, like ask me anything. And so people ask questions and the people go through and respond. So I think a lot of big events like that have really pushed it in the forefront. But I mean, I'll show you this statistic later. It's something like 16% of Americans like have a Twitter account. So if 16% of Americans have a Twitter account, like I don't know how many people understand what Reddit is. Like it's not intuitive for a lot of people. What was the other one? It was Reddit, Storify, and Geopedia. Geopedia, I think, is again just more of a tool to have in your back pocket. You know, when the situation arises, like I'm not checking Geopedia every single day. It's more of okay, I've got a situation that's happening. My team has a situation that's happening, like then go and use it. Like, same thing with Storify. Like Reddit is something I'm more consistently checking and watching to see what people are posting about. But they're all important. And you know, like I said, a year ago, like I don't think Geopedia even existed a year ago. Just goes to show you how quickly the space changes. Reddit I wouldn't have considered necessarily so much a place where I checked regularly for stories and stuff. Now I do. Storify, been around a little bit longer. It was actually born out of a Knight News Foundation grant, I think, or at least they started and gotten funding. So again, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about right now is a lot younger than Facebook or Twitter or any other big ones are. So, any other questions? Okay, so let's say you're working for the CU Independent and you're not the reporter who's out covering the president or something else. You've got something else that's going on. You're back in the newsroom, which is really important. You need people out in the field, of course, but you also need people back in the newsroom who are organizing, understanding, synthesizing everything, like looking at the bird's eye view. Because a reporter in one location can only understand and gather so much information. Like somebody has to be there to pull it all together. So, if I'm an editor in the newsroom and I'm doing work, you know, they can't constantly watch Twitter and other social media networks. I've tried it. Like you get so far, but you can't possibly watch everything. It's impossible. So you have to be both the eyes and ears by feeding information. With the Radio Shack story that I told at the beginning of this session, I was emailing the photographers out there when I found like, you know, either here's his Facebook profile, like here's his, you know, this, that, and the other. Like I'm sending them stuff as I find it, so that they stay informed. That's really important. For those of you who are editors, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of Twitter lists. How many of you use Twitter lists? All right, not as many as you should, but that is a decent number. Like, absolutely 100% something you have to do. Like, if you follow like 12 people, like, you probably don't need Twitter lists. If you follow 100 people, maybe not. 200, 300, 400 people, like suddenly it becomes, you're seeing the update from your roommate who's talking about, you know, her class and mixed in with, you know, breaking news tweets from the Daily Camera and from the CU Independent. Like, it just, you can't, your mind, you can't like as easily filter all that stuff. Like, so let the list filter for you. Have all your friends in one list and have your older media and like, you know, stuff in a separate list. And then use a program like Hootsuite or TweetDeck or something else like that to actually pull in specific columns with that information, okay? So, incredibly important. I already asked this. List examples, so the ones that I have. Colorado Media. It's like a list of, one thing with Twitter lists, you can only set up 20 different Twitter lists before they cap you, and those lists can only have 500 people in them, which drives me insane because there are more people now on Twitter than there were 3 years ago when I first set up this list. So now I'm having to make decisions about where I break them up and where I put them and everything. And there are more than 500 people in the mainstream news media who work in Colorado. So I thought about separating it between like broadcast people and like everybody else, like radio. But anyway, one of my pet peeves of Twitter is that they have limits on lists. Set up lists for specific events, okay? So we had one for the Boulder wildfire in 2010 that got a lot of play because we were not only mixing government sources and news organizations, but we were also putting specific citizens who were really good about passing information on in that list, and then we were tweeting that list out and saying, this is, if you want to follow everything that you need to know about the Boulder fire or the 4 Mile Canyon fire, like this is where you go. Theater shooting was another one. On Twitter, follow hashtags, of course. Like you as a newsroom editor need to do that, but be really aware that sometimes hashtags can get totally out of control and be completely useless. Theater shooting became that probably within like the first 2 or 3 hours as the East Coast started waking up. Keep in mind this happened around 1 o'clock in the morning. And as soon as like the East Coast started waking up to the news, like that's when the thing just became useless. Like it was pointless to watch. You know, not that we didn't still tag content with it, because you can, with Twitter search, and I'll show this a little bit later, you can search and limit your search area within a specific, 50 miles of Denver, Colorado, and that can kind of get you a little bit better, but just be aware of that. There are some hashtags like CO Politics is the hashtag for the legislative people, the political reporters. So when the same-sex marriage bill was going through the special session last year, the night that the Republicans were filibustering and not letting it come to the floor for a vote, I was watching that hashtag very closely. Normally I don't watch that hashtag at all, but that night, very important event, I was watching it and tweeting and retweeting stuff and keeping, like I said, really informed. Like, I can't imagine doing my job without Twitter. Like to me, and I haven't said this yet, like Twitter is like the absolute most important tool for my job. There's just nothing that comes close to it. Facebook's great because there's lots of people, but Facebook's not a place where I follow news or conversation, unless I'm talking to friends or pushing something out to somebody else. Twitter is where everything is at. That's where I find everything out. It's for lack of a better phrase, it's my front page, the front page of my newspaper every morning is when I wake up and I scroll through and see what the East Coast has been tweeting about for 2 hours. Yes?
If you saw a really great post, like say breaking news, you think, how do you trust that Twitter post?
I will talk about that in like 2 or 3 slides. Good question. So, going back, yes, sorry.
How do you follow the news in the morning like that? Do you have certain followers?
I have lists, so I have like I'll tell you the 4 lists, and actually no, I'll just pull it out and show you. So this is my newspaper every morning, right here, and really throughout the day. It's taking a second to fire up, but this is my Colorado media list right here. This is my VIP list it's a mix of national media outlets, journalists, and other people. All kind of mixed in here. So if I want to find out what's happening nationally, like I'm looking through this. If I want to find out what's happening in Colorado, this is where I'm sifting through right here. Okay. These are the mentions of the Denver Post. I have a photography list, interactions, and a bunch of other things. I have favorites as well. And I just watch, these are the these 4 columns right here are what I watch throughout the day. If I start seeing like photo galleries being tweeted from a lot of different people, I dig up and try and find and see if we have one yet. But these, I'd say that these 3 are the big ones that I watch all day. So this is how so when I want to find out what's happening early in the morning, like I'm mostly focused on these 2 columns, and certainly just throughout the day. That's what I'm doing. But this is TweetDeck, free download, tweetdeck.com. The original application, I think in a lot of ways is a lot better, but this is Twitter's new version, and I think does really, really well. And you'll see in a few seconds. It's not totally real time, which sort of drives me insane. The old version, the Adobe Air version, and if you want to dig around and if you want to come up and talk to me afterwards for how you can get the old version, I can show you how to get that. So this is not totally in real time. We'll watch in a few seconds, and yeah, there it goes. So like obviously those people didn't tweet all at the same time. It's like pinging the API like every, I don't know, 30 seconds or so and doing that out. So this is what I use. Like this is the power tool of all social media editors. I can write stuff in here. You can see all the different accounts that I can tweet from right here. I'm just in the defaults. I can add a column so I can search for specific things like these are all the people who are using the Jessica Ridgway hashtag. I add a column, there it is. I can edit it, and I can slide this over if I want to follow this closely. And I'll do this, like theater shooting, I got rid of pretty quickly, but like Lower North Fork Fire and other events where it's not too unwieldy, like I'll just have a column, I'll just watch this for as long as the event is there. And when I'm done, just delete the column. I can also add lists, so you can see all the different lists that I have. Bloggers, radio broadcasters, media, people, network hosts, business, entertainment, metro, opinion. Again, you can have up to 20 lists. You can actually follow as many lists as you want. So if the CU Independent has a Boulder Fire list, and you've already created your 20 lists, just go and subscribe to their list, and you can just pull that right into TweetDeck. So as an example, here is, yeah, here's the Colorado wildfires list that I'm following for the Denver Post. Like I didn't actually take this, make it myself. Well, I think I did make it myself, but it's not on my account, so I can just add this column even though it's a list from the Denver Post. Right? So yeah, this is, like I have this up all the time.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you interact with your followers, or
Yeah,
people you're
consistently.
following?
Yeah, if you just take a look at my feed, you'll probably see me responding to people.
Do you also interact offline?
Um,
Cultivate your followers, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I have my email. One thing about that you should do, I have email and phone number right in my bio. The reason for that is that I want people to contact me with tips, and I've had it happen many times before. I want people to contact me with tips and information if they have them. And if they're more comfortable emailing me, great. If they're more comfortable calling me on my phone, great. Some people go so far as to put their cell phone number on it. Reporters will do that as well. I'm not totally there with that, but you know, you're going to eventually get me if you ring that line. So really important. I put my location as well in my biography, so these are just other tips. I spell out Denver and Colorado because it's better for searching overall. Just putting it out there if people are looking for things specifically. Link to my website, and if you just look at my tweets, you can see where I'm talking with some people. So in this case, this is somebody who is complaining rather loudly on Twitter about how awful our opinion and editorial page is. So I saw that, and I said, well, contact our editorial page editor right there. And then she proceeded to go on her screen once again, but that's all right. It's important to reach out to those people. I can't tell you how many times I reach out to people, and they think, because the other column that I didn't show you is that I actually have a search running for just Denver Post. So a lot of people will say something about the Denver Post. They have no idea that we're on Twitter, but I'm watching for mentions of it over here. And so I just kind of keep tabs on this. And every once in a while I'll see something where somebody's complaining about something. A lot of this is just, you know, RSS feeds and stuff. But a lot of times people complaining about something, or they're, you know, pointing out something good, and I just want to reach out to them. In the case of that person, you know, she was saying that the Denver Post editorial page was like the worst thing that she'd ever read. So I want to make sure that she knew that somebody was listening. And sometimes people just find me. So last night I tweeted a story about how this like sub-elite recreational runner had been busted for doping. Like, I mean, you know, the whole story about Lance Armstrong and everything, kind of dominating the sports world for all the last week. And this guy comes out, realizes he's going to get caught, and confesses the whole thing to the New York Times. The New York Times wrote an article, and I wrote a whole tweet. And you know, I follow running. I occasionally write about running. I cover the Boulder when it comes through. And the guy like actually reached out to me on Twitter, like after I said it, like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I'm feeling really sorry about doing this. Like, wow, I had no idea you were on Twitter, and if I wanted to go write a story about this, like, here's the guy, like, who said, like, you know, the story only says so much. If you want more details, email me. Like, so sometimes you get something like that where you post something and the person finds you and reaches out to you directly. And I think part of that is because, you know, they maybe see my biography and they know I'm in the news media, so maybe they're more likely to reach out. So I'm transparent about that as well. But you just never know what you're going to get. Yeah, the whole point of social media is to be social, i.e. like talk to people, right? Okay. We want to do that. Don't just be a link tweeting machine. Okay, so how I work the theater shooting. Okay, just giving you a case study. For starters, I was not in the state of Colorado when the story broke. Okay, I wasn't in Colorado. I got off, I was on a plane back to Philadelphia to photograph a friend's wedding. This had like been set up like a year ago. Like, of course I get off my red eye, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning, mountain time, and I turn on my phone, and I mean, my phone was blowing up in ways that like I didn't know were possible. So got on the phone, like I had planned, like I never sleep on red eye flights, but I had planned to go home and, you know, sleep and like and catch up on my rest, and that was not going to happen. But I turned on the phone, had calls from the newsroom right away, got on the phone, and made sure right away that we had people who were watching this stuff. Like, okay, like I'm going to be in transit for 45 minutes to my parents' house. As soon as I get to my parents' house, I'm going to flip on the computer and I'm going to be there working as much as I can. What happened? I used Twitter lists after the theater shooting hashtag proved completely useless to follow, though I still tagged content with it. And let me tell you the advantage that I had over everybody else is that list. That Colorado media list that I showed you put me so far ahead of all the national outlets who are parachuting in. And a lot of the people in our newsroom use that list as well. They follow that list and they subscribe to that list. But not only was it me, but it was our entire newsroom was just totally ahead of the game because they had that list there of people that they wanted to follow. People who were on that list, who I just have there, who normally weren't tweet, like never ever tweet, were suddenly coming out of the woodwork and like giving valuable information. So a lot of times people, you know, who don't normally tweet day to day, but something big like this happens and they'll get on Twitter. Like I'd find stuff where, you know, I'd have a reporter who had, not my own, but another reporter somewhere who has like 20 followers, and I'm one of them, like says something, and all of a sudden, like, okay, like I've got something that I can feed to editors, I can feed to reporters, and I can say, check this out, look into this. So what was I doing? I was live tweeting, retweeting. I did not care if it was from our own reporters. I didn't care if I thought it was like, and again, I'll talk about like value judgment and accuracy and things like that in a little bit, but we were posting to Facebook, Google+, use source material from other news orgs and credited them. You know, sorry, this got a little messed up. So how do you have a situation like this where, I mean, it's like to the level where like national outlets are putting people on planes that morning and flying them to Aurora to cover. Like, I mean, obviously, like, number of dead was a lot. Ensure each network is updated. And you have to divide and delegate these duties. Like, I'm one person, I cannot do everything. So you have to divide and delegate. Ensure each network is updated. So I've got maybe one person just watching Facebook and watching comments on Facebook if I post stories. Typically, we try and keep 90 minutes to 2 hours between our Facebook posts for a lot of different reasons. When you have something like this, like that goes totally out the window. Like, people are hungry for information. They don't care when they get it. So if you're blasting their feed like 3 times in an hour because you have important information, like that's fine. Twitter, like we usually put out between like 3 and 6 posts in an hour, which for a lot of people like is a lot. But you know, Twitter is really for a lot of people who I think are news junkies who follow this kind of thing. Like that's okay. But again, you have a big situation like this, like everything goes out the window. Google+, Instagram, Pinterest if necessary. Like that really didn't prove to be too valuable there. I'm sure someone is checking Geophedia or scanning somewhere for pictures. We had someone searching for eyewitness accounts on social media and then reaching out to those people. Remember, these are all different people who have all different jobs throughout this. Someone watches the comments on the website. Sometimes you might find something in your, I mean, that's like, you know, what we don't necessarily think of as social media, but it sort of is, right? You know, you're writing stories and underneath you have comments. Like, watch those as well. Occasionally they can suss out interesting things too. We live tweeted press conferences. We now have a live account, actually, Denver Post Live. So, and I'd encourage CU independent people to maybe consider doing this. Well, we have a live account where when we have major like news, like debate, Aurora theater shooting, wildfires, like things like that, we will retweet things. This is like our curated feed. Like, so I wouldn't push this out on our main Denver Post account, which has like 60,000 followers, because I don't want to lose people who are really not interested in the, you know, the churn of something like this. But it's out there. If we've got a big news event, like we have this account just for this stuff. So you can see like we transitioned from Jessica Ridgway back to the Denver debate as well. Lots of things all in here. okay? Again, the whole point of this account is to retweet not only stuff from our own staffers, but from other people who might be giving valuable information. I wouldn't necessarily do this on our Denver Post account.
So Dan, I just want to point out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And that's, so the tool that we use now for live blogging is called Scribble Live. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but if you want to know more about it, ask me later. Incredibly powerful tool. And finally, we had somebody pulling audio of 911 dispatches and press conferences and then publishing that stuff. For those of you who have heard of SoundCloud before, that's what we were using to publish that kind of thing. What's nice is that that's something that you can easily share and embed. So if there was somebody else in the community who had excerpted a press conference, we could just take that ourselves and we didn't have to do any work. But obviously, like one other thing, ask people for help with tips and information. Again, as I said, we aren't afraid to pass info from the news orgs. Sometimes, and this point down here, sometimes it's okay to ask your audience to share information. I make sure that we use that really sparingly because you can really abuse that privilege. But every once in a while, like if you want to find something or get something, don't be afraid to ask people to share something. Share this to help spread the word. Retweet this. Like again, like if I use that like once a month, that's probably all I really need it for. But in mass casualty situations like this, major breaking news, that's what I want to do. You can take a look at our final story right here, which had 6 bylines. This was not the final version that ran in print, but this was the thing that ran and updated all day. You can just see images, video, images. Dispatches. Eventually we took those things and put them into a timeline. I mean, just look how long this story is. Not only from reporters on the ground, but also from social media. I don't think I've ever seen a longer story on our website that wasn't, a longer breaking news story that wasn't on our website. So, social media played a very important role in that whole situation. So we've got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to zoom through this stuff. Crowdsourcing, talked about it a little bit. You can use your followers and fans to find anecdotes for trend stories or even some of the most obscure topics. Business and features department and the city desk very often will ask us to find sources for stories. So case study, parents rating their children's credit during the recession. So parents who actually go and steal their like 5-year-old daughter's social security number so they can secure a loan for something, or, and you know, they default on it. Kids go and they want to go to school, you know, 10, 15 years later, and they find out that their credit's totally ruined and they can't get a student loan. So we were trying to find people who fit this description. I would guess that most of you probably don't know somebody who's gone through something like that. So this is a really specific thing. We were looking for a 20-something person whose credit had been totally trashed. And we found her through Twitter. So this is actually a really interesting photograph. That's her on the left, and the photo on the right that she's holding up is her mother. So the front page story itself generated 73 comments and numerous shares across social networks. It was our most popular story that day, even beating our Broncos news, which traditionally is right at the top, and it was a great photo too. And this was all found because we posted something on Facebook, hey, we're looking for this. If you know somebody or would like to talk to us, email reporter David Magoya, or contact him on Twitter, or contact him here. And within a couple hours, we had the person we were looking for. And of course, like once you get something like that, you've got to check it out and verify it. You know, you meet, you talk with them on the phone. I mean, like social media is the starting point for doing something like this. And they actually used to do this in the newspaper all the time. They post like, we're looking for these people to do this. This is just a much faster way to do it. You can collect data from your followers and fans too. We did this recently with the debate. We used a Google form. We were looking for 20 undecided voters to watch the first presidential debate on in our newsroom, on a TV, and we used real-time audience analysis to get what their sentiments were. A lot of TV stations do this. And we used a Google form, and we asked them specific questions, and when we shared this all on social networks, and so we found like our 20 undecided voters, and then we found like 12 more community bloggers, all using a Google form and sharing that link on social media. And so we're gathering like, okay, who did you vote for in 2008? Where are you from? What's your name? What's your contact information? Like, why do you think you'd be good for this? Why would you want to do this? And we got 297 responses from like 12 slots. So we had lots of people to choose from. This is just something you can potentially use if you want to pull together focus groups or things like that. Like certainly, like this has some degree of bias because you're pulling from people who are on social networks, and we did publish this in the newspaper as well. But we made sure we got a good mix of people as well. Other things, monitoring breaking news, follow hashtags using a program. I talked about this already. Okay, I talked about this already a little bit too. Twitter search only lets you go back 7 days, but tweets exist for much longer. TweetDeck's filter and searches can pull out information, but basic Twitter search is just twitter.com/search. And I go to advanced search and start looking through here. This is where you can really find a lot of really useful information if you really want to get specific for what you're looking for. I'm not going to go into that too much because I still want to talk about verifying information. Okay. Increasingly, news is breaking on social networks before it's being officially acknowledged by official sources. This is a great example from yesterday, okay? There was a guy who was tweeting as the guy who was like jumping out of the spaceship, and lots of people, in fact, CNN picked it up and said it was him. And I was watching this feed, and I was like, unless someone's ghost tweeting for him, I don't know how this guy is using a phone, or a sat phone at 128,000 feet, whatever. I think that, whatever it was. And so, eventually, somebody, actually talked to somebody, like picked up the phone and like said, hey, what's going on? And confirmed by Red Bull PR, Felix is not on Twitter. Okay, so now we know. CNN got duped, decided to jump the gun, thought that it was totally wrong. I mean, one of the tip-offs right away should have been that Felix's Twitter account, or the alleged Felix, was not confirmed or verified by Twitter. If you have something really big like this, chances are somebody, and especially Red Bull behind it, somebody knows somebody at Twitter and they're going to get him like a verified thing. Does everybody know what a verified Twitter account is? Yeah. It's going to be verified, and CNN just decided to roll with it. So with verifying information, very often you're going to approach a degree of confidence, but you can never be 100% confident. Recognize that. Scanner traffic, for instance, is often very unreliable. As valuable as it can be, we don't, in almost every circumstance, I mean, I can think of like one exception, we don't tweet directly from the scanner because the information there is so raw and so early that it's inaccurate, and we as a major news organization have a responsibility to pass on accurate information as best we can. Doesn't mean that we aren't like occasionally saying, hey, or at least I'm saying personally, hey, we're hearing this on Twitter, can anybody verify this? But we're putting it out there and hedging it and saying, we don't have this confirmed, can somebody help us? So some suggestions from Pointer on what to ask. You have to ask yourself if you see something on social media. How credible is the information? How important is it to your audience? And how urgent is the situation? So consider the source's history. Are they new? Did they sign up 10 days ago for an account? Like, that's a tip-off. Has the person posted credible information before? Is the source in a position to know what he or she claims? These are all questions you should ask. Is the person has witnessed the event firsthand? Fact check the claims. Send the person a message on Twitter. Send the person a message on Facebook. Call them on the phone. Talking to people, like, still a really valuable. Remember that thing I said at the beginning about fundamentals of reporting? Like, still important. Could the source have missed something important? Were they driving by the crash so they didn't totally see everything, or were they just standing at the scene? And don't mistake quantity information for quality of information. Right before the Denver Broncos finally traded for Peyton Manning, I think it was a full 24 hours in advance that somebody went out and said Peyton Manning to the Denver Broncos, and we waited. We saw it, but we waited, and we didn't ultimately say anything because it was just a lot of smoke and mirrors. There was nothing there to it, even though lots of people were tweeting it. Does not necessarily mean it's true. Okay, ask yourself how important is the info. Is the information a fundamental claim, something that happened, or an incidental fact? Is it worth taking the risk, especially in wrong? What is going to happen to you if you are wrong? What impact is it going to have on your reputation? Is there little public interest? long story short, somebody was saying that a 7-year-old girl had been pepper sprayed at Occupy Denver. It turned out not to be true. None of the news organizations ran with it, and we couldn't verify anything at all, so we didn't go with it. And finally asked, how urgent is it? Well, we've asked all these. Okay, so some of you may know this story. Joe Paterno and his death being tweeted like prematurely. Onward State, which is an alternative student publication at Penn State, had sort of grown a reputation for, yes, being, you know, a little avant-garde, but largely being right about this stuff and producing good journalism. They really screwed this one up though. And they tweeted like they had bad information. It was like checks broke down, and they tweeted that he was dead like a full 12 hours before he actually was. Huffington Post, CBS News went and carried a report from there. They didn't check, they didn't cite it. Not only did they not check it out, but they didn't cite him either, which is even worse. So they ran with the report without saying where they got the information. So that led to a lot of mea culpas. NYT, AP, and CNN eventually knocked the reports down on Twitter because they called people and they talked to them on the phone. Again, social media takes you to certain places, but eventually you've got to use that the old school fundamentals that you learned in journalism school. Okay, so
Dan, looks like we're about.
I think we're
Unfortunately, out
good.
of time.
Yeah, there's a couple other things.
Should have booked you for longer.
That's all right. I hope you all found this valuable. I'm going to be around for a little bit afterwards. If you have any other questions, then I'll give Steve this presentation so that if you want a copy of it afterwards, you can take a look at the couple slides that we missed.
Yeah, and we videotape it.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Hey Steve, if people want to just go in the CUI newsroom at 2:05, we can hang out in there if you want to talk to Dan. If Dan has time.
Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, it sounds great.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,